Hey everyone, today I'm going to be smoking this brisket. It's a little tiny piece of a brisket point and a little bit larger section of a flat. Came from a cow that was raised locally here in Connecticut and was grass fed, so there's not a lot of fat on it, but it came out great. So I started off with not using a binder and just using a pre-made Kinder brand mix of salt, pepper, and garlic, and just got a nice even coating on the fat cap here, and then I flipped it over and got the meat side, made sure to get both sides all around. Nice even coating, and I did add some black pepper, and I decided to go fat down on this one. A few people have recommended that. Speaking of fat, I did trim it off, some excess fat, and I smoked it in the smoker and reduced it down to tallow, and then I basted the brisket in the tallow, in its own tallow, and caught it back, in the cast iron that's placed underneath it, and just continue to do that, periodically. A few hours in, I started this at 9 o'clock in the morning, so at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was really happy with the texture. I was happy with the color, but it was not tender at all. It was coming up to around 190 degrees or so internal temperature, so it was time to wrap it up. So I decided to go with butcher paper this time because I really wanted to save this bark. So I took some tallow, dumped it on top of the butcher paper and then on top of the brisket, and just wrapped it up nice and tight and threw it back on the smoker. I think it was temping around 192 degrees. We had some carryover cooking while I was wrapping this up, and threw it back in the smoker for about another hour and a half, hour or so, until the internal temperature came up to around 205, 207 degrees, and it was nice and probe tender at that point. So once we hit that tenderness and that good temperature, I took it out, left it wrapped up, and threw it in my oven set to 145 degrees and just let it rest for hours. I took it out around 8 o'clock at night, so it rested for about 4 hours in my oven. Then here you see me unwrapping it. Lots of juices in there, and it was pretty tender. Still had a good bark, and that's why I like butcher paper, because you still get to maintain that structural integrity of your bark. It doesn't sog out like you're using foil, and that's why last brisket I made before this one I used the foil boat, and I was really happy with the foil boat method. So like I said, good bark, good smoke flavor. You'll see me cut into it here in a second. I'm just trying to figure out where the grain is. You want to make sure you're cutting this against the grain. If you cut it with the grain, you're going to get long, stringy pieces. Cut it against the grain, and it'll have a much better mouthfeel. It'll be much more tender. There'll just be little tiny short pieces of meat there. So here you see me slicing through. It was a little tougher than most briskets, I'm not going to lie. Not a lot of fat on this thing, but considering it did come out great, and we got a decent amount of smoke penetration, a good smoke ring. I was really happy with it. You can see here, this is where the point and the flat come together. There's that separation in the middle. Off camera, I did split those two pieces and cut them accordingly against the grain. Overall, I was really happy with the cook. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Don't forget to like and share and follow. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.